So I'm going to describe actually a series of work, a series of results obtained by Arthur Vavasseur and more recently with Léo Vivion. We are both PhD students in University Côte d'Azur. So they are now in País Vasco and in École Polytechnique. And actually, this activity is very tightly related to works by Stéphane Debièvre, as you will see in a minute. Okay, I will show you how it is connected to this trend of activity performed by Debièvre and how this is us. Okay. So the motivation actually comes from target in the mid of 80s, and there's something which is close to the intuition. Is sense of rotation subjected by a particle. And so to say, okay, you look at the universe, and if you make the balance of energy on the whole universe, of course, the energy is conserved. In the particular environment, the particle is losing the energy, and the energy is given to the environment. So you have this in the dissipation. So in some sense, energy is provided the particle to the environment, and it is fastly evacuated, and it does not come back to the particle. Okay, so this is the roof idea, which has been formalized by Caldera and Leggett for solar system. So in some sense, what we have to do is to understand the transfer of energy from the degrees of freedom to the degrees of freedom of the environment. This is the scooping that you want to understand. Okay, so if I go back to this very simple equation, which is the second derivative of the position is q. So this is the acceleration of the particles. Right hand side, you have all the forces applied particles. So you have external forces given by this guy, and you have the drag force, which is proportional to the velocity. And the question is to understand where does this drag force comes from. Okay, what is the expression of lambda given by this interaction with the environment? So you have plenty of approaches to this question, and it depends on the coupling and on degrees, the difference of the degrees of freedom of the environment. So for instance, you have a very long series of work by Komech and Spohn, starting in the late 90s. And you have a more recent paper in Acta Mathematica by Jakzik and Piet, which is very deep and contain very interesting results. But what I want to do now is to be close to a series of work with in Lille. And actually, this activity started with a work with Laurent Bruno in 2002. And then it has been followed by a series of work with PhD students like Bénédicte Aguerre and Émilie, with the participation of Paul Paris, who is a physicist, and Pauline Lafitte. So a world which is quite appealing to understand this kind of dynamics is a dynamical Lorentz system. So you have the interaction of particles with some scatterers, but in contrast to the classical Lorentz gas, here, the scatterers are dynamic, so they can have some vibration, and they react to the collision with the particles. So if you want to have a more fancy picture, you can think of a particle in a pinball machine. So this is Stéphane Debièvre really likes to describe this kind of interaction. Okay. So now let us enter into details with equation. And before the equation, you should have in mind this here to guide your intuition. So the particle is moving in this axis, which is the horizontal axis x. And at each position, the particle meets some membrane. So when the particle arrives at position x, it activates the membrane, which is located at this position. It gives some energy to the membrane to activate some vibration of the membrane. And then this energy is evacuated at the fin of the membrane. So we have Caldera-Leggett paper. So now in observation, you have simple OD for the motion of the particles, so the acceleration of the particle. So I remind you that Q is the position of the particle. So the particle you have which is applied to the particle. You have with vibration of the membrane. So you have two form functions, sigma 1 and sigma 2. So sigma 1 tells you that you activate the membrane close to the location of the particle, so just a little bit around the position of the particle, you activate the membrane. So this is driven by the sigma 1. And sigma 2 is also the radius of interaction in the y direction, which is the transverse direction to the motion of the particle.
Your sound is very bad, Thierry. Your sound is bad. It's hard to hear.
Okay, try.
Maybe you turn off your camera to see if it helps.
Okay. Is that better that way?
Well, at the moment it's better.
Okay. So what is important in this model? In the model is to really bear in mind the fact that you have two directions. So you have the direction X, which is the direction of the motion of the particle, and you have the transverse direction, which is the direction of the vibration of the membrane. So X and Y are really different variables. Okay. So you should bear in mind this picture to follow the talk, actually. Okay, so here this is still the same set of equation for Q, the position of psi, which is the vibrational field, and all the modeling parameters which drive the dynamics are the form function sigma 1 and sigma 2. So here, C infinity function, very smooth with compact support. They are positive and radially symmetric. So contrary to what we are used to, here the regularity of the form function is not an issue because of the modeling. It's very natural to assume they are very smooth, okay, with a fast decay. And the other driving parameter is the wave speed, which is a C, and you will see how it plays a role in the evacuation of energy. So the first remark that we can make is to have the conservation of the total energy, which is the equation there. So the total energy is this combination where you have here the kinetic energy of the particle. Here this is the potential energy, which depends on the external potential V. Here this is just the usual energy coming from the wave equation. And the last term is just the coupling term, which depends on the convolution with sigma 1 and psi. We have this product that depends on, say, the right-hand side here and this fourth term. So if you compute the time evolution of this composite quantity, you will find 0, okay? So the energy is conserved, so it gives a Hamiltonian structure to the system. Okay, so to start with, let me recall the result obtained by Debièvre. And actually, you have two things which are very important in the analysis, and we go back to that later on. The first one is to assume that the wave dimension is large enough, and actually everything is easier and more natural when you assume that the dimension for the wave is free. Okay, so I remind you that the space for the wave dimension has nothing to do with physical space dimension. Okay, maybe Y is not homogeneous to a length, but it's very natural for many reasons to assume that n is free and n should be large enough. Which should be large enough is also the wave speed. Okay, so bear in mind the picture. So C is large enough means that the energy is evacuated very fast in the membrane, so that it does not come back to the particle. And so the results that describe the intuition of the drag force exerted on the particle are the following. So if you assume that there is a confining potential, then as time becomes large, the position of the particles goes to the potential well, and the velocity tends to 0. if you have an applied force which is linear in that way, there exists a limiting velocity, which depends on the force. And actually, this dependence for small f is linear, okay? So the q of t is some q infinity plus linear term, which linear with respect to time, which is proportional to f, let's say. And typically, in all those results, the rate of convergence is exponential, minus gamma t divided by c to the 3. Okay, so c is the wave speed. So this is the how you formalize the dissipative effect of the interaction of the medium. So asymptotically, everything happens like if you have a drag force exerted on the particles, and the energy is evacuated through the membranes. Okay. So this is a situation for a single particle with this simple ODE coupled to a wave equation. So once you have understood that, you can play with many particles. So you can write exactly the same ODE for a set of p particles. So each particle feels the external potential, and you have a self-consistent potential that depends on all the particles, because it is defined by this convolution, which implies the psi, and the psi is a vibrational field, which depends again on the position of all the particles. Okay. So now you play your favorite game, which is to rescale the equation so that each particle feels a force of order 1. So you divide by the potential by p, the number of particles, and you consider the empirical measure associated to the position and velocity of the particles, and you let p go to infinity. So this is usual mean field approximation, which gives you a kinetic equation that will be written on the next slide. So before I switch to the kinetic equation, I just want to emphasize the fact that the asymptotic behavior for as time becomes large is completely different when you have several particles. Even with 2 particles, the situation is very complex, and much more complex than playing with a single particle. This is because you have plenty of different scenarios depending on the motion, relative motion of the particles. And if a particle passes through a membrane, for instance, when the second particle arrives, it can still feel the energy, the vibrational energy of the membrane, because that's not been evacuated sufficiently fast, and the vibration of the membrane gives a kick to the second particle so that it is accelerated. And so there is a very complex interaction between the two, and you have plenty of different scenarios that you can imagine in this way. Okay, so let's forget the p particle system and now play with a kinetic equation. So when you take the mean field approximation, what you get is a kinetic version of the De Bièvre-Bruno equation. So here you recognize your favorite form of a kinetic equation with a force field that depends on the external potential and the self-consistent potential. And the self-consistent potential is this integral. So you have a convolution in space with sigma 1, and the integral with respect to the variable y, located with a sigma 2, and psi is a solution of the wave equation in the transverse direction, with the right-hand side that depends on all the particles in the position x, given by this integral. Okay? You have actually an integral with respect to space and with respect to the velocity. So again, I pointed that y is a transverse variable. So again, y has nothing to do with the space variable, which describes the motion of the particle. So the model is really different from Vlasov-Maxwell or Vlasov wave equation as studied by Bouchu, Goltz, and Pallard, for instance, where the wave would be in the same direction as the particle. So here, really think of the membrane as something which is transverse to the motion of the particle. So you have exactly the same kind of energy conservation. So if you add the, here this is the energy of the vibrational field, the kinetic energy of the particle, the potential energy, and the coupling term. So if you add all those guys, you take the time derivative and you get 0. Okay, so this is exactly a translation of what happened at a single particle level. So you can prove existence and uniqueness result for very general external potential if you wish, and generalizes a little bit the Bruno and de Bièvre results because it applies also to the case of p particles. You can justify the Milfin asymptotic, which is not really a big deal because of the regularity of the coefficient sigma 1 and sigma 2. And actually, I want to describe now a little bit some asymptotic results and the issue of equilibrium state and stability. Okay, so actually to have an intuition on this model, it is quite interesting to rescale the equation and to play with the case where the wave speed is very large, but you also assume that the coupling is strong. So you change in the right-hand side of the wave equation, you rescale this right-hand side as 1 over epsilon. So it balances with the wave speed. So formally, when you let epsilon go to 0 in this equation, you get rid of the time dependence, which is this guy. So it disappears. And you get a very simple Poisson equation. And you can integrate, you can factorize the solution so that you have the dependence with respect to y, which is quite simple, and the product with sigma 1 multiplied, sigma 1 convolution with macroscopic density of particles. So now if you go back to the definition of the self-consistent potential, you obtain a simple convolution with a constant which is in front. And this constant is the product of the function upsilon, which is this guy, times sigma 2. So now you use the Poisson equation, you integrate by part, and you remark that this constant lambda is strictly positive. So now, to guide your intuition, because we have a very strong background on kinetic equation and Vlasov and so on, you can also assume that the sigma 1 is such that the square of its Fourier transform is 1 over xi square, and this way you recognize the attractive Vlasov-Poisson system. So this scaling is maybe not very relevant in physical terms, but what is important is to understand that there is an attractive dynamics which is hidden in this coupling with the wave equation. So if I want to go back to the equation at the beginning, you start in this way. You assume that you can factorize when epsilon is small the solution for the wave equation. So you change a little bit the coupling, and you end up with Poisson system. So what you get in this formal asymptotic that can be justified, you can expect that the Vlasov wave equation inherits some features of the attractive Vlasov-Poisson system. So, and this is what we want to make more rigorous and more complete now. So something which is also very important is to rephrase the equation. So if you think of the analogy with Vlasov-Poisson, it's very common to replace, not to write the Poisson equation, but to write the potential as a convolution with the kernel of the Poisson equation. So you can do exactly the same manipulation here, and you can rewrite the potential by splitting it into two terms. The first term only depends on the initial condition for the wave equation. So this is something, a contribution which is linear here. So phi does not depend on the distribution of particles. And the interesting guy is a second term, which is defined by this convolution, more or less like for the Poisson equation, except that now you have a smooth kernel. But now the novelty actually is the fact that you have also a half convolution with respect to time. You have some kind of memory effect with a kernel PC, which actually drives all the memory effect and all the dissipation mechanism. And the dissipation mechanism induced by the vibration of the membrane is precisely encoded in of PC, which depends on the form function sigma 2, which depends on the velocity of the speed of the wave, and which also depends on the dimension of the transverse space. Okay, and wave equations, the dispersion effect of the wave equation are strongly dependent on the dimension n. So you can understand with this formula how n enters into the game, and why choosing n large enough will be important. So if you do that, the next step in the program is to prove some Landau damping mechanism, because you have understood this analogy with the attractive Vlasov-Poisson equation. So this is something that you can reasonably expect. So the theorem can be written in this way, a very rough statement, if you wish. So you start from a homogeneous state. So rho naught, a constant, times mv is a homogeneous solution of the equation, of the Vlasov wave equation. So you perturb a little bit this initial condition. You assume that the data is smooth. You assume that the dimension for the wave is large enough and is odd. You have ugly stability criterion, which looks like what you need for the Landau damping for the Vlasov equation. So if you don't know what it is, just remind that something needs to be justified, to be checked. And the conclusion is the fact that the macroscopic density of the particles is constant, and the self-consistent force tends to 0 as time goes to infinity. So the strategy is exactly to stick to the recent progress by Mouot, Villani, Bedrosian, Masmoudi, Mouot, and others, and to check that the convolution with respect to time does not break this strategy. Okay, so now this is the only thing that I want to show as a result on the classical case. I want to describe now some extension to the quantum case. Okay, so I replace the description of a single particle or the kinetic description by a quantum description. So I switch to the Schrödinger equation, which is in the same spirit. So you have a potential applied to the particle, to the quantum particle, that depends on the vibrational field in transverse direction, which is defined in this way. So remark that I've rescaled also the right-hand side for the wave equation. So you can start by remarking that you still have energy conservation. So the vibrational field, the energy of the Schrödinger equation, energy. So you can prove that the equation is well posed in this space. You can make the connection with the kinetic equation by using some semi-classical analysis in the spirit of Lyon's Paul. But what I want to describe in thorough details is rather the stability analysis, because you have some surprises. And actually, to understand what's going on, the idea is the same as for the kinetic equation, is to play with the limit where the coupling is strong and the wave speed is large. So if you do that, you replace by this convolution expression, which really looks like what we did for the kinetic equation. And now you can guide your intuition by saying, okay, if this capital sigma is just a delta Dirac, you recover the focusing nonlinear Schrödinger equation. And if capital sigma is 1 over modulus of x, you recover the Newton R3 equation. And for those equations, we know some stability results, stability of solitary waves, and this is exactly the kind of things that we want to recover here. But the intuition is marked that the space dimension now, space dimension D, will also be very important for Schrödinger equation. Depending on the dimension, the equation is subcritical, supercritical, or just critical. Okay. Something which is also very important, which makes the model very different from the nonlinear Schrödinger Newton R3, is the fact that the Schrödinger wave equation has no scale invariance. So if you rescale time and space, you do not recover a solution of the original equation. And also, you do not have the Galilean invariance. So there are two fundamental differences between this simplified model and the asymptotic model and the Schrödinger wave equation. That makes the analysis very much more difficult. Okay, anyway, all systems, I mean the simplified system and the system coupled to the wave equation, admit solitary wave solution. So I mean you can search for solution with this specific form, and you end up with equation here for the Q. And this equation is very well known. This is a Shokar equation, which has been investigated a long time ago by Pierre Williams. And we already know that there are infinitely many solutions for this equation. So you need to select among all those solutions, and the idea to select is to use the minimization of energy. So this is something which is also quite classical that needs to be adapted here. So you need to define what we call the ground state, which is the minimizer of the energy. And what you observe for this equation is a mass threshold. It means that if the mass is small, then the minimal energy is 0, so everything is not interesting. But the energy becomes negative when the mass is large enough, and it is precisely reached at the ground state, which is solution of the Shokar equation for a certain omega. So you can really follow step by step the proof, which are usual for the Newton coupling, for instance. And you can prove regularity of the ground state, radial symmetry. But the thing which is very difficult is to show the uniqueness of the ground state for a given mass constraint. Okay, and this question is actually open. Okay, and the next step is to investigate the stability of those ground states. So you have at least two strategies. Actually, there is another one that we did not investigate, which is a strategy described by Florian Mehatz 2 days ago. So the first strategy, just to stick to the concentration compactness approach of Pierre Williams. And in this way, you obtain a weak stability statement, in the sense that if you start close to a ground state, then the solution remains close to the manifold of all ground states with the same mass. Okay, so the result is a bit weak, but the strategy works perfectly fine. If you want to strengthen these results, you can work by using linearization techniques and spectral analysis. And the result that you obtain is this one. So the solution remains close to the ground state up to a translation and a change of phase. And you have also a result for the vibrational field. You have a characterization of the gamma and the X. And the proof actually really follows Landsman argument for the specific case where D, the space dimension, is 3, and sigma is the Newton potential. What is really critical in this business is to prove some coercivity estimate for the linearized operator. And this is really a delicate step in the proof. And this is very surprising because it is much more difficult in the case of the convolution smooth kernel sigma than for the coupling with the Newton potential, because the Newton potential has much more structure, and this is related to the scaling, the existence of invariant scaling of the equation, which is completely lost here. And so the idea is precisely to work with function sigma 1, such that by rescaling, a double convolution can approach the modulus of X. So you define in this way a class of admissible form function, so that you are able to obtain this stability statement. So this is really very, very surprising that the regular case is easier than the solution with a very smooth kernel, because the structure is lost. So just to finish the talk, there's a series of numerical experiments starting from initial data, which is perturbation of the ground state. So we have a way to compute the ground state. And this perturbation is with a small momentum. So P naught is quite small. And what we observed is the fact that we amplified the dynamics, which really sticks to the description of the motion of a classical particle that I described at the beginning. So you just say that the velocity of the particle is p, and the acceleration is given by this, which depends only on the ground state. Okay, and the psi, which enters into the game here, is defined by this wave equation. So this is an equation that you can solve without solving the Schrödinger equation. You can look at the trajectory defined in this way. And what we remarked in the numerical simulation is that the simplified dynamics, the P and the Q, remain close to the center of mass, which is for the, sorry, this is for the Q, which is close to the center of mass. And P is close to the impulsion that you can define from the Schrödinger wave system. And here now we have a very strong analogy with the dynamics of the classical particle. In particular, we remark that the P, this momentum, goes to 0, and Q of t tends to an asymptotic position. So we recover exactly what we had in the case of a single classical particle, and this asymptotic is also exponential. So of course, it remains to justify everything except this weak statement that I gave on the previous slide on the dynamics, but the numerical experiments give a very strong intuition of what's going on. Okay, so thank you for your attention. Let me try to share the webcam again to see you.
Thank you very much, Thierry. I was wondering about the last equation you have, your rate of convergence. There used to be a C3 in the classical case.
Yes.
It's just normal, it disappeared.
Yeah, it disappeared because, as I told you, I have a change. When I started working on the Schrödinger equation, I changed the scaling.
Okay.
Let me go back. Here, I assumed already from the beginning, right-hand side of the wave equation scales like C squared. If
okay,
you raise square, which is here, go back to the C to the 3.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question? Thierry, I'm just curious about this open problem you mentioned on the ground state. What do you expect for the ground state?
The uniqueness is something that seems to be open.
Seems to be
open. We do not know whether or not it is unique.
Okay.
It's very tricky because if you look at all the proof in the case of the Newton potential, either it uses at some point that we know some explicit solution of certain auxiliary equation that we do not know in the case of a general potential or general function sigma, or we use the invariant scaling. In some sense, there is some structure that we miss here for this more general problem.
I see.
It's very organized.